Gosh, I mean, just like you said, the priest that you mentioned that said, walking the Camino is like a university of life, and I would just say something similar. Yeah, you experience hardships, you experience difficulties. I didn't have any blisters, but I did get a few cuts on my feet. Your feet hurt. But there's just so much great joy at the end of the day. And just being able to lay down at the end of the day is just just awesome. If I could just make a little metaphor with life too, I think sometimes we experience our struggles, we experience our difficulties in life, and how often it is that we make the blisters or the hurt feet, or I don't like this particular meal, to use a metaphor. We have these moments in our life that are struggles, and we forget that we're on this great journey of life, and the reward is life itself. I have a friend, and she would often at the end of conversations, she would say things like, enjoy the journey. It's kind of like, I think she saw it somewhere, and so it kind of became her little mantra in life. And she's never walked the Camino, but as I was walking, like, that phrase just kind of stuck in my head, that the reward is the journey itself. Yeah, I mean, you started somewhere and you're headed to Santiago, you're headed to the place of St. James. But I also felt like as we were getting closer and closer to St. James, I was just thinking, gosh, like, I'm gonna miss this journey. So many of the life-giving and enjoyable things that we feel called to do, that we know that we should do in our life, we will always have reasons not to do them, and we just have to put down what we are doing in our life and just make it happen. And you will not regret it. You will not regret taking this little parentheses out of your life, because it will only make you a better human being. It will make you a better person, because you're able to reflect on your own life, which is so important for us as human beings, to reflect back on our life. So I actually studied for 3 years in Salamanca, Spain, and so I had heard of the Camino during my years there. And circumstances were what they were, and I was not able to actually walk the Camino during my time when I was actually living in Spain.
Hello, pilgrims. This is Efrain, your host from the Way to Your Way podcast. And today we have a very special guest. He's Father Josh West. He is the chaplain from NC State University, and the Catholic chaplain. And also, we're going to be talking about his experience through life, several chapters on his life and gone through since he born in Naples, Italy, on the side of the volcano. And he jokingly say that he has been born in a plane because he has been traveling a lot because of his family. His father was part of the Department of Defense, and then all that make it travel all around the world. And at some point also he asked the question if he's going to be Catholic or not, and he is. It's not just that he's Catholic; he's also a priest.
Amazing.
And so see how many changes can happen in life. And the other thing that he recently, here we're the at Camino Wonders channel or the Way to Your Way podcast. He just recently walked one of the Caminos, and that was the Camino Primitivo.
Yes.
One of the one that is not easy to walk. So, but he's going to tell more about it. And welcome, Father Josh. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. Yeah, great to be here, and just to be able to share a little bit of my experiences on this on the Camino. Just a wonderful journey. And anyway, thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, no problem. So then the first question that, and let's start before the Camino and about your personal history. You were in Italy. So can you tell us a little more about all the history from when you were born until you starting being as a priest?
Yeah. It's funny when I say things like I was born in Italy. Actually, my first 5 years of life were in Europe, 2 years in Italy and 3 years in Germany. And sometimes I think people think, maybe I'm some, European or foreigner, but no, my parents are more American than Mickey Mouse. And it's just great to have experienced life in another country. According to my parents, anyway, my first words were Italian. I had an Italian nanny that took care of me during my first couple of years of life there. And anyway, she, according to them, anyway, my first words were these Italian words. Obviously, I don't remember what they were, but anyway, but it's just my dad being working for the military, the Department of Defense. We moved around a lot. And we would spend 3-4 years in a place, and then we were off to another destination. And so that's kind of how I grew up. Airplanes. I'm very comfortable on airplanes. I'm not sitting there making signs of the cross as we take off. So actually, sometimes I've had pilots, I've had people say things like, as a priest, when I get on an airplane, they'll say things like, we are so lucky that we have a priest on this flight, and I always respond, I think we're lucky that we have a pilot on this flight.
Very important.
So
good. And what made you to study for a priest? What made you that decision?
I think people think often that maybe a priest, they just grow on trees. They were just kind of somehow born this way. And, that's not true at all. I think we have to remember priests are they come from a society, they come from a family, and they lived in a society, and they did most of the things that society has done. If you can imagine it, it has probably happened. A priest has probably experienced it. For sure. I grew up in a Catholic family. I would say Catholic family. We always went to church. My mom was Catholic. My dad actually became Catholic later on, but eventually, he became Catholic as well. And so high school hit. Once again, I think I was just an ordinary kid. And I think as most kids do in high school, they begin to question their faith. They begin to question not just the faith, but just life and their family and the values that they received, because they're beginning to be independent and live their own life. And so myself as a priest, I went through that as well. And I questioned, hey, do I even want to be Catholic my whole life? When it came time for confirmation, which is typically a thing that is done during the high school years in the Catholic Church, my mom would ask me, hey, Josh, you want to be confirmed? And I would say, no, Mom, I'm not sure I'm going to be Catholic my whole life. And but she left it up to me and my freedom. And eventually my senior year of high school, I did go through the confirmation. But at the same time, I kind of fell away from practicing the Catholic faith. So my first couple of years of college, I was not a churchgoer. But as I got back into my faith, I think the idea of being a priest kind of came along with that.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I got started anyway, thinking about the priesthood. And actually when I, because it's a hard decision. Like, do I actually go off to seminary? Because you feel like this is a huge commitment, like you're leaving behind girls, you're leaving behind. Sometimes you can feel like, well, you're leaving behind dreams for this inner voice within you, where you feel like, gosh, maybe God is calling you to something, but do I actually want to take hold of it? Am I going to be happy? And so anyway, so I actually went off to the seminary. Kind of my thinking was, if a guy is going to marry a girl, he spends time with her and gets to know her. And so we call that dating. And so I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I need to go date Jesus. I think I need to go spend time with Jesus. And so that was actually what led me to my first steps into the seminary, and then eventually off to the priesthood. So after many years, many tears, finally.
And after all those years, do you came to the Diocese of Raleigh, or do you were in other places before?
No, actually, so yeah, interesting you asked that question. I'm actually not I work in the Diocese of Raleigh, North Carolina, but I am not a member of the diocese. So I was invited in because my religious order, called the
Okay.
Legionaries of Christ, we were invited in to do work in the diocese. So specifically the work that I do now, which is
Okay.
at the University of North Carolina
Okay.
State, sorry, North Carolina State University. With the students here, the Catholic students on campus.
Okay.
So I'm a member of the Legionaries of Christ.
Oh, that's very nice. And then talking about the university, about what is the population of Catholic in at the university approximately?
Yeah, approximately. I mean, my guess would be about 5% of the student population is Catholic. I just say that because I think 5% of the population of North Carolina is Catholic.
Okay.
And but we have probably between 300 and 400 students that show up to our Sunday services.
Okay.
Um, and then obviously we have other activities during the week as well to help nurture the faith of the students on campus.
Okay. And talking about that population that is Catholic, those 400, 500 students that you constantly see in them. Uh, how do you see the connection with the students and the the Catholic faith and then talking about something and now start going about the Camino. How would you see that an activity like the Camino would benefit them?
You know, well, first and foremost, I would just say college students love adventure and they enjoy new experiences. I think, especially when you're in college, you know, life is fresh and you are kind of, in a certain sense, living independence for the first time in your life during your college years. And so it's almost like a new toy that you're trying to figure out. And how do I use my freedom and how do I use, because they have the freedom, but they still don't have quite the responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, they would think they have responsibility, but they got to turn in papers on time and do projects and exams. But they're not paying taxes,
Yeah.
so they there's this new toy called freedom that they're not under the eyes of mom and dad, and they're able to do a lot of things on their own. And so I think they have this adventurous spirit about them, and they want new experiences. And so that's something that we try to offer the students, at least from a faith perspective, that we try to offer the students. Because, yeah, I mean, even for the Catholic students, it's not just about being in the church. It's not just about praying. It's there's so much more to life. There's so much more to our Catholic faith, and so the Camino is one of those things that we like to offer the students. And I think kind of the hook for them maybe isn't necessarily what they will then get out of it. The hook
Okay.
is they're going to Spain. The hook is that they are doing this thing that a lot of people in the world think is an awesome thing, and so they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'll go do that." What they
Okay.
don't know is their feet will hurt. What they don't know is that they'll be eating pig nose.
Yeah. 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 And then, so talking about that, and the NC State University, and I mentioned to you that the other day, there is a program that is a study abroad at the Camino de Santiago. And we have an episode where we interview two professors, the one that are leading that program, about probably, I believe that interview came live about beginning of this month, July.
Okay. Okay.
And then the other episode that was prior they went to the Camino because they have gone on another years as well. And then they go about end of May. And then we recorded another episode after they came back. And that episode is going to be live, I believe, probably around October, November of 2025.
Awesome.
And the experience, how they tell everything has been amazing. And I've been in contact also with UNC Asheville because they did a program about the Camino de Santiago as well. And I spoke already with the two professors. One is already retired, and the other one was just recently walking one of the Caminos. And the nice part about that is that the student that went with them about 6-7 years ago are all already professionals. They are working and all that. So
Right.
we are planning to have an interview with the two professors plus some of those students that now they are working. And
Right.
the idea of that is to see how the Camino changed their life and how they are using that at work.
Right.
Because like I don't remember if I mentioned to you or not, there is a priest in Spain, in the Camino del Norte, that he say that the Camino is like the university of life.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful analogy. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So now going into the Camino part of the interview and your recent experience, what made you to decide for walking the Camino Primitivo?
Well, maybe if I can back it up a little bit, and that would be actually part of my seminary years were studying in Spain. So I actually studied for 3 years in Salamanca, Spain. And so I had heard of the Camino during my years there. And circumstances were what they were. And I was not able to actually walk the Camino during my time when I was actually living in Spain, which would have been a lot cheaper. So it's been something on my brain probably for about 20 years to walk the Camino. And and even every year, actually, I make a bucket list of things that I want to do during the year. And the Camino has been on my bucket list for like 15 years.
Wow.
And I just never was able to make it happen. So until this year. And so we got a group of students together. And and actually I was working with another priest in this from Duke University. And so he had a group of students and I had a group of students from NC State. And so he was actually the one who chose the Primitivo, the Camino Primitivo. It wasn't my choice. And funny enough, I think it was day 1 or day 2 of our walk that we started in Oviedo, Spain. I met a gentleman from England, and he asked me, well, how many Caminos have you walked? And I said, well, this is my first. And he said, amazing. You chose the hardest and most difficult Camino to walk. And I was like, really? I thought it was just going to be kind of flat and 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 it was not. Yeah, we were walking through the mountains.
Okay.
So that and actually, I'm very happy that I chose the Primitivo, because even for me, I was thinking Camino Primitivo. It didn't click in my brain that this is the primitive way, right? So the first way, right? The original, the OG of Caminos. This was the first, the original. It didn't click in my head until a couple days in that this was the original one that was created. And that the fact that it's the most difficult, at least that's what they say. So it's the only one I've experienced up to this point. So I don't have anything to compare it to. But yeah, we had a blast. Obviously walking the mountain, great views. So.
Do you remember how many kilometers did you walk?
Well, my certificate says 318 kilometers, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
And through those 318 kilometers, do you remember how many days were you on that Camino?
Yeah, 14.
14
we walked
days.
14 days. Yeah.
Okay. And from those 14 days, how many days you say that were very, very difficult to walk?
Oh, I mean, I have two particular days that are stuck in my brain. Um, One was just the fact that it was a long day, and I think we walked over 30 kilometers that particular day. So I don't know, what would that be? 22 miles or so?
Yeah,
22 miles,
a little about that. Yes.
something like that. Um, and But the funny thing about that day was that so we knew the place. So I'm trying to remember. The itinerary had the town that had the town where we were going to stay, and then underneath the town was the albergue where we were
Okay.
going to stay. And anyway, so then we got to the town, and it was, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we Googled the albergue to find the place where we were at the hostel where we were staying, and GPS said that it was still another 10 kilometers.
Wow.
And so we were like, wait a minute, you know. So, but anyway, sure enough, the itinerary had the wrong town written
Okay.
on the itinerary, and so anyway, so we still had 10 kilometers to go. So that may have added to what made it a difficult day.
Oh,
Was
wow.
Yeah, we were sitting down there drinking our beer, and we realized we still had 10 kilometers to go that day.
Wow.
And then the other difficult day was we had spent the night in a town called Pola de Allende, I think was the name of the town. Pola de Allende.
Okay.
And it was down in a valley. And so basically the next day was this 5 kilometer walk up to the highest point that we were actually going to uh, touch on the Camino. So it was basically 5 kilometers up. And
Wow.
yeah, that was not fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say not fun. I would do it all over again. But I would say those were probably the two toughest days. So,
Okay. And
and then just
now that you just say that I will do it again, what made you to do it again? Because you do it with you say with so much emotion. What would be
yeah,
that?
gosh, I mean, just like you said, the priest that you mentioned that said, walking the Camino is like a university of life. And and I would just say something similar. Yeah, you experience hardships, you experience difficulties. I didn't have any blisters, but I did get a few cuts on my feet. Your feet hurt. But there's just so much great joy at the end of the day. And just being able to lay down, at the end of the day is just yeah, just awesome. And and the people that you meet along the way is just, I mean, just fabulous. I mean, even to this day, I'm still in touch with 4 people that on a regular basis. I'd say to this day, it's been 2 months, but I'm to the, I'm still in touch with these people. A couple of Italians, a Spanish lady, and an American, and and just kind of random people that you met along the way. You ended up having a 3-hour conversation as you walked along. And so these are the things that I would be like, yeah, I would do it again. I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just an awesome moment experience in my life.
Yeah. And another thing that people say, and that was another priest that I taught in Spain. That was in the French Camino in Ocebreiro, and he said that the better ambassadors for the Camino are pilgrims who have walked the Camino,
Yeah.
and that's absolutely right.
Oh, it's absolutely right. I have a friend, and she would often at the end of conversations, she would say things like, "Enjoy the journey." That's kind of like, I think she saw it somewhere, and so it kind of became her little mantra in life. And she's never walked the Camino, but as I was walking, like that phrase just kind of stuck in my head that uh, that the reward is the journey itself. Yeah, I mean, you started somewhere and you're headed to Santiago. You're headed to the place of St. James, but um, but I also felt like as we were getting closer and closer to St. James, I was just thinking, gosh, like I'm gonna miss this journey, and yeah, I mean, just the yeah, difficulties, but but also the rewards are just so much greater, like so much greater than the struggles that maybe you experience. And I think just for me, just realizing that 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 the reward of all this is actually the journey itself. And if I could
Correct.
just make a little metaphor with life too, I think sometimes, yeah, we experience our struggles, we experience our difficulties in life, and how often it is that we make the blisters or the hurt feet, or I don't like this particular meal, to use a metaphor. We have these moments in our life that are struggles, and we forget that we're on this great journey of life, and the reward is life itself. It's the ups and the downs of life.
Correct.
And
And about a strategy for going that when you're going up, because when you're going up, and what was your strategy? And then I tell you mine.
okay, yeah, my strategy for going up the mountains uh, to go faster, to get it over with quicker. I think that was, um, I would maybe a little bit of a zigzag type thing,
Okay.
but I definitely tried to go faster, and I also tried to carry on a conversation during that time when I
Oh,
was
important to
when
get
I was going
distracted.
up. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So mine is I also try to have a conversation, but also always looking down, not looking up.
Oh,
And then the other
okay.
thing, if I wanted to see how I am doing, I don't go see up. I just prefer see backwards, and I
Okay,
see
yes.
how much I have accomplished.
That's great. It's funny you say that. Yeah, looking to the sides, because we were through the mountain. We were walking through the mountain, so I mean, the views were spectacular, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, lots of pictures, lots of
You have a
pictures.
lot of pictures.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, better believe it.
Okay, that's good. And with technology today, that is, we just with the cell phone,
Yeah,
plenty. You
exactly,
can take picture
exactly.
every time, every single minute.
It's funny that the cell phone, because at least while we were traveling, I kept my phone in airplane mode. I did not allow myself to receive phone calls, texts. Like I didn't want any of that. So
Okay.
I kept it in airplane mode. Actually, even worse than that, I kept it in airplane mode except for 1 hour a day. I gave myself 1 hour, usually in
Okay.
the evening time, to
Okay.
respond to messages and things like that. But,
That's good. And then other question regarding the training prior to going to the Camino. Did you do any particular training here in North Carolina?
oh, Efrain, I am the worst example of that.
Okay.
I did zero training. I
Okay.
just
Well, I'm glad that you respond that. And that being zero training, do you see that affect your Camino when you go there?
I would say the first couple days, yeah. I would say, especially the first couple days. Your body is not used to walking the way that we walked. So we did have a couple of Saturdays that we organized with the students to go walking, for them to go walking. Um, you know, because of life, I was not able to attend any of those days.
Okay.
So basically, my practice walking was from my bedroom to the kitchen to grab to grab my
Okay.
coffee or whatever. But yeah, definitely the first couple days, I think my feet extra hurt. And actually, I would say the first couple days, we would be maybe a mile or two from where we were going to stay, and I was counting down the steps. I was counting down the mileage and the meters and the inches to when we were getting to the place. Yeah, I could not wait to take my shoes off and put my feet up, for sure. So I was, especially the first couple days. Yeah, it took my body a little bit to get used to the walk.
Oh, yeah, nice. So I see on the back that you have the shell. Uh,
Yeah,
where do you get that shell?
I got it right at the beginning. Yeah, right.
Okay.
And so I actually tied it onto my backpack as
Okay.
I walked. So I think it's a sign, right? It's a sign of the pilgrim, I guess.
Yeah.
You know who the pilgrims are because they have this little shell there on the back.
Yes, that's correct. When you are
And
walking, you
and if I
see
could
a
just
lot
add,
of people.
being a Catholic priest, so I had the shell, and I also had my rosary on the
Oh,
back of my backpack.
oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. So and then there is, talking with with the same priest that mentioned about the ambassadors of the Camino. I asked him because he was really involved with the pilgrims, and at some point in the San Francisco convent that is in Santiago, he helped. I believe, I don't remember exactly, but it was thousands of pilgrims to arrive to Santiago at that place
Oh, wow.
quietly and by free, at least for one
Right.
night, because he said that after all those long walk and being so peaceful, and then getting to Santiago, it got kind of noisy. He preferred to
Right.
have it on that at least one night there.
Right. Right.
And then he was saying also that he talked about the history about the Camino, how initiated, because I asked that question. So there is a lot of information, and nobody knows exactly what happened. But the belief is that the rest of St. James are in the cathedral, and
Correct.
then also was built because that Primitivo that you just walk, there was Pelayo, I believe that was the name of the person who discovered where the rest were from St. James at that time. And he called what was the priest from Santiago at that time. And then they called the king of Asturias. That was the
Right.
one in Oviedo.
Right.
And that what he was the first pilgrim who walked
Right.
down and then went into say, oh yes, we need to build that church, a little church first, and then they built the cathedral that was in about 1100 years, something like that, after Christ.
Right.
And
I'm
then
not sure.
talking
Yeah, I'm
about
not
the
sure when they
shell,
built it.
you were saying, sorry?
I was just, I don't know what year they built the church.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. And then talking about the shell, there's another person who mentioned to me that what is believed that happened is that the shell is a symbol for the Camino as well, because the boat where the St. James came, bring the rest from St. James came from Israel, they were the boat was made all of shells. I don't know if that was correct or not, but
Okay.
that's what he told.
Yeah. I've never heard. I would doubt that. I would doubt that.
Yeah,
There's a lot of things out there.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. And then also,
it's
you see the shells, you always see it under the sea. You don't
right.
see it
Exactly.
floating, so
Exactly.
it's kind of
Exactly.
difficult.
Right. Exactly.
Okay,
So yeah, no, it's I mean, for us as Catholics, the shell has a special meaning, which is actually eternal life and baptism. So that's
yes,
so yeah, I have once again, I think they probably used the shell because that's what they found in that area. I mean, it's right. It's a it's right somewhat close
yeah.
to the sea there. But yeah, I think I think they used the shell because that's what they found there, and then they attached meanings to it. But
Correct. That's probably
yeah,
what happened. And
yeah.
then, yeah, the pile of baptism that is on the Raleigh Cathedral is beautiful. And
Oh
you see
yes,
that is the shape of the shell as well there.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's actually funny. I didn't. So we arrived to the to Santiago, and we were threw off our backpacks. We're just kind of laying on the cement there in front of the in front of the basilica, and then somebody came up and said, hey, this is not where you finish the Camino. You have to go over to this. There's like a little shell that's carved into the stone on the in front of the cathedral, and that's where you end the Camino. And so anyway, so we just there's like it's a small little thing, and then so anyway, we all went over there, put our feet around the shell, and took a picture with our with our shoes around this little shell that's carved into the stone there.
Oh,
It's pretty
I
funny.
didn't know about that. So I'm going to tell my wife because she's going to about to go there in next month. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to tell her that she needs to go there as well.
No, I mean it's super. You would never know. I mean unless somebody told us, we would have thought that this is the end of it, and so there's the anyway. It's in there. It's carved into the rock there.
And for you pilgrims, you know now that you need to find that shell because that's
That's
where the
right.
Camino ends.
Exactly.
If you don't find the shell, you need to keep looking
You didn't
around
end the Camino.
on the Obradero Square until you find it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so how interesting. Okay,
How many people have gone and they haven't finished the Camino because they didn't touch that shell?
Oh, I'm one of those guilty, and 3 times. I never seen that.
My feet tell me I finished.
That's important. And then
That's good.
you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that it took you about, I believe that about 15 years from the moment that you initially would like to have walked the Camino until you finally
Right.
walked the Camino.
Right.
What would you say to those future pilgrims that would like to go to the Camino, but they say so many things, so many reasons, and there may be valid reasons, but they do not finish to take the decision, oh yes, I'm going to walk next year or in few months. And I have encountered that when I've been talking with all those classes that I've been talking about the Camino, that there are different reasons, and that's why I created the Camino of Raleigh.
Right.
Because we are wanting to mention them and that they live in few hours, kind of they can experiment in the actual Camino in Spain.
Right.
And what would you say to those future pilgrims?
I would say, if this is something that you have a burning desire to do, so many of the life-giving and enjoyable things that we feel called to do, that we know that we should do in our life, we will always have reasons not to do them, and we just have to put down what we are doing in our life and just make it happen. And you will not regret it. You will not regret taking this little parentheses out of your life, because it will only make you a better human being. It will make you a better person. Because you're able to reflect on your own life, which is so important for us as human beings, to reflect back on our life. Because you have a lot of, and this sometimes scares people, but you have a lot of quiet time during the Camino. But you're also meeting so many people from other parts of the world, and you're learning other ways of just living life, and just other experiences in life. And so, it just I think just having the willpower to just put down what you are doing, because everything in our life is important. We say everything that we're doing is important, otherwise we wouldn't do it. But sometimes we just have to put those things down and allow ourselves to actually live life, and and just be able to just experience and to experience ourselves in a deeper way. Because everybody that walks the Camino in a special way has a reason why they're doing it. And,
Correct.
And everybody has, whether it's a personal reason, whether it's for somebody else, whatever it might be, a circumstance in their life. Everybody has a reason. And it's just to be able to come to grips with that. And, so it will make everybody who walks the Camino a better person.
I totally agree with that statement. And for you pilgrims to know, once you do that Camino, if you have not done it before, you're going to understand why everyone that go to the Camino wants to keep talking about the Camino all the time.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Well, and one final advice that you tell, what recommendation would you give to those pilgrims that have not do an adventure like this one?
Who are going? One, I would say, is a more spiritual thing. Go with an open heart. Just, because you are going to experience yourself and other people. And so just go with an open heart. The lessons that you learn are the lessons that you learn. And so often there won't be other lessons. There won't be lessons that we learn unless we do this trek, unless we walk the Camino. Maybe two pieces of advice, which are more practical, I would say: pack light and wear shoes that are wide in the toe. Because I did not.
Oh. Unfortunately, you didn't have any blister.
I didn't get blisters, but I did get some cuts on my toes because on downhills especially, my toes would go to the end of my shoes, and I didn't have wide-toed shoes, and
Okay.
so they would bunch up a little bit. But it was great. Yeah, I mean, I would still do it again.
Uh,
And if the only pair of shoes I had was the same pair of shoes, I would still do it.
oh, so nice. Yeah. Well, then, thank you very much for being here today, Father Josh. We appreciate
Wonderful,
all
Efrain.
this conversation, your time, and all those advices that you provide. And for you pilgrims, thank you for watching us again. And please keep included your comments on the comment sections. That way we know what future guests do we need to invite for having an interesting episode for you. Thank you and buen camino.
Buen camino. Thank you, Efrain. Bye bye.